I'm Kim Sajet. I'm the director of the Portrait Gallery. This is so exciting. And how do you feel? Devon, I mean, this is amazing.
I'm very happy.
You really? He was telling me that this is the most he's gotten dressed up for a long, long time, right? This is like really made
I really
an
don't
effort.
usually dress up.
Yeah. So I would like to walk you through a little bit of your life. So let's start at the early time, and then we'll move forward to this moment. And you're a little bit like me. I'm all over the map in terms of background, but you're from Honduras, Puerto Rico, American by way of South Bronx. Tell me a little bit about your background and your family situation and just about who you are growing up. Did you always want to be an artist when you were small?
Yeah, for sure. So I was always into art. I always loved drawing. There was nothing else I know how to do. So I would just hang around the kids that did art for all my life. So the kids that did art in the Bronx, like in my middle school that I went to, they were all doing graffiti, and I was like, oh,
okay,
like let me hang out with the creatives. So I started tagging.
And they were allowed
walls.
to do it, or were they like drawing on the walls and running for it before they got discovered? I mean, was it sanctioned graffiti, or was it like the dangerous kind?
Well,
you're not going to answer that question.
I ended up getting arrested. So I guess.
All right, now I want to know, how did you get, and how old were you when you got arrested for doing graffiti?
13.
What were you, was it a portrait, by the way?
No, not at all. It was not a portrait. It was just some lettering on the walls.
Was it bad words?
No. It was my tag. I don't know. I was a teenager. I called myself Craze. I don't know why.
Your tag name was Craze?
Yeah. I thought I was cool, but I was.
I don't know. That sounds pretty cool. And so
you're like, I guess.
so you got arrested, and you had to call home and say, hey, who did you call when you got arrested?
So funny enough, I don't think I've ever even told this story. The police were calling my mom, and my mom was like a tyrant parent. She was like, he want to be tagging? Keep him there. And it's Friday, so he's going to be stuck over the weekend. And I was like, please, police officer, call my grandma. My grandma was there in like 30 minutes. Like, oh, yeah, she was there to pick me up.
It's always the grandmas, right? Because they know they can give you back after a while, so they're willing to, Yeah. All right. So you always wanted to be an artist. You hung out with the kids and graffiti, got exciting, craze.
Yeah.
Wear that forever. And then, but why portraits, Devon? Why portraits? Because I would argue that it's the hardest kind of art to do, right? I mean, why not still lifes? They're not moving for a start, and you can make stuff up, or a landscape. And with a portrait, like, you kind of have to make it look like the real person.
Yeah.
So why portraits?
So I went to this high school in the South Bronx, Samuel Gompers, and then I had an art teacher that he just started drawing portraits, and I was like, why am I doing graffiti? This is beautiful. So ever since then, I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I was like, hey, can you teach me? And he started to teach me.
This was Jeremy Harper, right?
Yeah, Jeremy Harper.
Tell us about Jeremy Harper. I mean, I don't know if anyone has this too, but I think many people have the story about a teacher, right, who changed their life. And I think Jeremy was that for you, right?
Yeah, so my dream high school was to go to the High School of Art and Design in Midtown. I was like, I could go from the South Bronx to Midtown and hopefully change my life. And then I submitted a portfolio and it sucked. I had graffiti. Like they said they wanted like portraiture and still lives in different mediums, and I didn't even know what mediums meant. So I was like, let me just do some tags. And then I bring the portfolio, and then they turned me down, and they're like, you're not good enough to be in the school. So then I went to my zone school, Samuel Gompers, and I didn't really like it because it was pretty violent. They shut down the school later, like 3 years later, because it was horrible. But
wow.
My art teacher there, he taught me about portraiture, and he was like, of course you didn't get in. You're tagging books. Like, that's not what we want to see. And he was like, I went to SVA, and I know what the portfolio people want. And so he trained me for 6 months. And I was so miserable at that school. Like, oh my God, to even get in the school, you had to go through like 30 minutes of metal detectors because they're checking if you have like guns or knives. Like, that's how bad it was. So I hated being there, but I later on like thought back on it.
Were you worried about, were you concerned about your protection? Were
Oh,
you
yeah,
afraid
of course,
that
of course.
something's going to happen to you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Bronx, of course.
Right. He's like looking at me going, of course, like, who are you?
Absolutely, of course.
Yeah. I know. Someone asked me if this accent was from New Jersey, but it's actually not. And so I didn't have quite the same background that you did. But yeah. Okay. And what did it feel like when your whole life stream was to get into this high school for art and design, and you got turned down? I mean, did you say, like, what were you going to do if you weren't going to make it? Did you have a plan B, or did you always think to yourself, I'm going to make this happen?
Yeah, I had a plan B. Ever since then, I don't know if you could tell, I had a chip on my shoulder. I was like, "You're turning me down? All right, I'm on."
Bastards.
So
Yeah.
that was my that was my whole villain story. So then I went to art and design. I got trained by Jeremy Harper for 6 months. Got accepted. Then I came into the school like, all right, I'm gonna be. Well, I don't think this anymore. But at the time, I was like a 14-year-old like Bronx kid. Like, I'm gonna be better than all you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I could argue he must be a really good teacher to teach you in 6 months. I mean, people spend years at art school learning. So you must have been a quick study, and he must have been a good teacher.
I wasn't that good. I was like good enough to get in, but it wasn't like.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then you did a lot of self-portraits. Like, I've seen the little self-portrait that you did, your first early self-portrait. You post it occasionally, which I think is like...
That one is from the first portfolio, like the 2010 one. That's the one that got me declined.
No. All right, so wait a minute. Tell me about that. What do you mean you got a client?
No, declined. Like
from
declined.
The school. Oh, I thought
I wish I got a client.
Yeah,
I had no clients.
It's your accent. Okay. Just saying, I'm from New Jersey. All right. So we met in 2016.
Yeah.
So we've known each other for 7 years. And in fact, you've been in the National Portrait Gallery twice. So the first time was in 2016 when you actually were the subject by an artist, another mentor of yours, John Ahern. And it was actually called the Rodriguez Twins, but you are not a twin, right? Do you want to talk about that, and what was that like? Because it was a sculpture, and it was Devon actually in duplicate on the wall. So like it comes out of the wall. It was a 3D sculpture. Yeah,
so in the Bronx, I met this guy named John Ahern that came to one of my art shows. Like, I was at this little gallery, and I couldn't believe he was even there. Like, it was like a hood gallery basically, and like he showed up, and everyone's telling me like, this is a legend, this is John Ahern. So he's like, your paintings are masterful, like you should come to the studio and let me sculpt you. And so I was like, all right. So we became friends. And then
so you end up on the portrait gallery walls. You come to the opening. That's where we meet.
Yeah.
And then it goes full circle. So this is part of our Outwin Buchiva portrait competition. We call it the Outwin, and it's every 3 years, and it's all media, and it's a blind jury. So there are these always famous judges, and it's they don't know the names of the artists. They just pick. In 2019, you were the subject. In 2016, 2019, you submit a painting of John. So it's like this full circle. So what was that like?
So I submitted for 2016 too, but I got declined again. I don't know who
Did you tell your grandma? Did you?
No, I was too embarrassed. I don't know who these blind judges were, but I'm coming for them.
Right.
But yeah, so 2019 I submitted, and then I did a painting of John, and I thought if I got in, it would be a cool story because he submitted of me, and then I submitted of him, and then it worked out. And it was amazing. I got a New Yorker article at the time, and then that article kept me like with commissions for the next 7 months. So around that time, every like 6 months, I'll get like a big like New York Times, and it kept me like surviving without having to have a job. So
I always wondered about that because you do this show, and I've heard that for some artists, I mean, like Amy Sherrill ended up doing Michelle Obama. It worked out pretty well for her, but you never know quite sure what the impact is going to be. At some point, I hope you do see this amazing portrait that Devon did of John, and I'm going to quote you. You said, I figured I should add to the conversation and do a painting of John. I wanted to portray him as I saw him, an intense, anxious artist with a hint of anguish. So is that how he came across to you? I mean, he definitely looks very anguished in that picture, I have to say. Yeah.
I was like, John, I want to do a painting of you. Like, let me take a photo of you. He's like, Harry, I hate pictures of myself. Like, and then so I took a quick picture and painted it. But yeah, that's
He was
how.
sort of
That's how I
grumpy
saw him.
about it.
He just doesn't like photos of himself.
So how did he feel when, he was actually then in the exhibition and was he even grumpier at that point? Or
Yeah, he was like, why'd you have to do my eyes so blue? Like, I'm ashamed of, I'm like the blue-eyed devil. And he was just mad.
No, he looks really great, but he does look very intense. He's very intense. So, going back to self-portraits, and you then actually posted something. You just told me that you took it down, but you drew your self-portrait on a FedEx box.
Yeah.
And then I assume you sent it. Did you send the FedEx package? But you sent me a picture, and I was like, this is amazing. I'm surprised it got delivered, that the FedEx person didn't, snaffle it away. But so you just were like, oh, I'm going to draw on this box?
Yeah. So I was shipping out wait, you hear the train?
Yeah, I love that.
My office is calling.
Yeah.
But
And it does feel like I bet it's down.
yeah. The underground.
Yeah, it's the underground. Yeah.
But yeah, I drew. I shipped off like a portrait of a dog, and I just drew a self-portrait on it. And
So wait a minute. Inside the box, so the outside of the box is this amazing picture of you. Inside the box was a portrait of a dog.
yeah.
Okay, that's very metaphysical. All right. So we meet, you're in the Outwin, and then I think it was around that time that you started sketching people on the subway, right? How did that start? And tell me about train number 6.
Okay, so that started because of Jeremy Harper when he was teaching me, and it's crazy that it went full circle because I really didn't want to be in that school, but if it wasn't for him, none of the rest would have happened because...
Is he still around?
Yeah, he's still around.
Okay, he must be proud.
Yeah, he was at the opening. He was like so happy. But I always apologize to him. I'm like, I'm sorry I stole your idea. But he's like, no, you was inspired by it, and I was inspired by my teacher.
This was his idea?
Well, so he was teaching me. He was like, if you want to learn, you have to draw people on the subway. There's all shapes, sizes. You get this nose, this type of ear, and it's the best way to practice. So he would take me on the subway and draw people. And, that was 2010. And then I was like, that's such a cool idea. And then 2020, 10 years later, it started going viral. And so, yeah.
So when you started, were you sort of doing this in secret and sort of looking surreptitiously and drawing, and did people were like, why is that guy looking at me? I mean, did it get creepy?
Yeah.
So because I mean, right. So I mean, okay. Tell me about that. Tell me those moments where somebody's, and because sometimes the people that you're drawing, I mean, they look like they're in their own worlds. They're probably really tired.
Imagine you're in the Bronx, and you see this Hispanic tattooed man looking up at you, like.
Yes. Yeah.
No, but so my teacher Jeremy Harper, he took me on the train and he was like, "Yeah, just do this," and he just starts, and I was like, I'm from the hood, so I'm like, "Mister, that's mad weird. Like, what if he wants to fight?" And he's like, but he's like a purist. He's like, "No, this is art," so he's doing it, and yeah, so he was like, just start doing it. Don't worry, I got you. So I just started doing it. And then eventually it became so big that now if I get on the subway, people are like, oh, draw me.
You're the guy. You're the guy.
You're the TikTok guy. Like some of them don't even know my name. They're just like, you're the TikTok guy. Draw me. Yeah. So I'll just be like, all right.
Have people said, don't worry, I'm not getting off my stop. I'll stay on the train.
Yeah, one time I was getting filmed by this newscaster, and I started drawing this guy. One time.
All right. Newscasters, you know where to find him. Yeah. All right, go ahead. Yeah.
So then I'm drawing this guy, and he's like, I'm like, what stop do you get off? And he told me Spring Street, and it was 6 stops away. And I was like, all right, I have enough time. And I didn't. And then I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he was like, no, keep going. And he went all the way to Brooklyn 30 minutes later. And he's like, no, I want to be on the news. And I was like, I was like, all right, thank you. So some people they just
Are
stay
you
on.
always on the same train, or do you mix
Oh
it
yeah,
up?
yeah. So
Okay, so you know all the stops.
yeah.
So do you plan where you're like, okay, I'm at the start. I'm going to start now because I know I've got like 20 stops. Like, do you
Yeah.
plan your time? Like, is it a little bit more strategic now?
Yeah. I don't say the stop because people on Instagram are like, I'm waiting for you on Union Square. Like, where are you? But basically, yeah, I like
So
plan it.
instead of being the stalker, you are now being stalked.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It turned around. Like
Yeah,
I was stalking
yeah.
people and now they're like, draw me. I'm like, I was anyway.
So, I mean, I think I read somewhere that now you ask permission sometimes. Is that true?
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
they ask me and I'm like, all right, just sit still, look at your phone.
And what if you don't want to do somebody?
I just say like, oh, I don't have my sketchbook, even though it's in my book bag. And I'm like,
Right, So what do you look for when you're like picking who to paint on the train? Like what
just like
there's a certain
anybody
type?
and everybody, like anybody and everybody. I try to, and if there's a certain, sometimes it's just like, okay, he's in front of me, like it's easy. Or sometimes it's like, oh, this guy has horns on his head. Let me draw this guy. This is crazy.
I've seen that picture. It's really, I mean, like, he
Yeah.
literally had horns like put into his head.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, I drew you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would draw that if I could. I would draw that. Yeah, that's amazing. All right, so you first did pencil sketches, and you now are even doing paintings, right? You actually have this tiny little tin with paints, and you're painting real paintings.
Yeah.
So what is it? Was that for your own sake? You're like, I'm going to literally mix it up and put some color on this now for your
Yeah.
own enjoyment, or?
I just want to be known more as a painter because, you know, from when you knew me before, I was just a painter. And then this whole TikTok thing like went off. And so I've kind of focused on that for a few years. But then now I'm like, you know what? Let me go back to my roots and like be known as a painter because the sketches are just like, they're cool. But like this, I'm like, this is what I want to do, you know? So
let's talk about that, Devon. You didn't go to art school, right? In the same way, or
no, I went to art high school, but not for college.
Okay. So, I mean, it's really extraordinary because you're largely self-taught. Who were you looking at? You know, who was helping you work out? I mean, you're so accomplished. You know, who are your favorite artists? Are there people that you looked at? Did you look at a lot of books or pictures? Like, how did you teach yourself?
When I went to art and design, I had this teacher named James Harrington, and he taught me oil painting. And I kind of just like, I would just like focus on one person. Like, all right, I'm gonna just try to be as good as James Harrington. And then like, I'll get on YouTube, like, oh, how do I mix colors? How do I mix skin? And
Don't you love YouTube? Yeah. I mean, you can learn everything on YouTube.
Shout out to YouTube.
Yeah, shout out to YouTube. Literally during the pandemic, one of my staff members taught herself the ukulele.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's what YouTube will do for you. Yeah. But anyway, so you were teaching yourself to paint by looking at these.
So I was looking
but
at
I mean,
YouTube.
even perspective and color, you know, color is hard. Yeah. Color can take over. Color has a temperament.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's like my favorite part. Like I would also buy DVDs too. All the money every year in high school, I had an internship, so I was like making money. And while my friend, not my friends, like people in high school, like, oh, you don't got the latest Jordans. I was buying painting DVDs. So
what kind of internship? What were you doing?
Oh, I did. One, I was like running like a life drawing class.
Wow.
Another one, I was at the gallery where I met John. Another one, I was at Museum of Arts and Design, and then another one was like this stationery store. So every year, I was, you know.
So you were always putting your hand up, trying to get into situations where you were. So were you going to museums? Were you going off to the Met or to Brooklyn or the museums?
No, not really. I was just
Never?
like on the internet. I was just looking at art on the internet. I never really went to galleries or the museums at all. So I'm always feeling cringe when people ask me like, "Well, who are your favorite painters?" I'm like, nobody. I look at TikTokers.
So, well, I'll come back to that in a minute. But so then, how did the TikTok thing happen? You were like, how did you decide that this was you now going to try and make a, you know?
So I was, you know, around like when I met you, 2016, 2017. Every like 5-6 months, I would get like a big publication that would like give me so many emails to give me commissions for like the next 6 months. And I'm like, okay, yes, I don't have to get a real job. You know, I don't want to work at an office. I just want to be a painter.
Right.
So it kind of kept me going. But then it got to the point where I was like 24 and I'm like still living with my grandma and like girls don't want to come over. So I'm like, I got to do something.
Girls don't want to come over because
I mean, my grandma's is on like a twin size bed like that, like a bunk bed. So anyway, so I'm like, I got to do something.
Yeah.
So
it's getting bad.
It's getting bad. Like I'm still in the hood. Like I thought I was going to be this great artist. And then I was like, it was the pandemic. I'm trapped in my room doing more paintings. And then TikTok was skyrocketing and I saw all these like dancers like becoming millionaires, 16-year-olds. And I'm like, this isn't fair. Like I thought I was talented.
I'm better than them. Yeah. I can do something better.
You said it, not me.
Devon, you're better than them. Let me give you some affirmation. Yeah. I mean, he was teasing me. He said, I don't follow you. You've only got like 50 followers and you've got what, 32.6 million?
No. I said you only follow 80 and you followed me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Damn, I would never say that to you.
I thought you were dissing me.
No. No, I said I was honored that you only follow 80 people.
And I'm not allowed to be on TikTok because I work for the federal government. And just so you know, I'm not allowed to. But you're now on Instagram, right? Did I hear that you're now, when you went on Instagram, you got 1 million followers, like overnight? I've got 2,000. 2,500.
I'll tag you in something.
Okay. So excited. My children say I'm really boring because I always make it an art history lesson and they're like, you write too much. It's really boring.
I can't believe you thought that I said you only have 80. You're the director of this. I would never say. That's like career suicide.
People tell me stuff.
I'm glad we spoke about this. Damn.
No. I'm really not vindictive like that at all.
Okay, good.
All right. So
you scare me.
So, but is it a lot of pressure? I mean, you know, do you now feel that you have to sort of keep, you know, you've got all these people just waiting for the next thing. I mean, he was showing me his phone.
Are you guys really waiting?
No, well, but so, and you've turned off the little messaging thing, right? Because otherwise,
the notifications.
I mean, drive you crazy, right?
Yeah.
How do you, so
in the beginning,
is there pressure?
Not really compared to the Bronx. I mean, I'm good now. but like in the beginning, I would get so many notifications. And in the beginning, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm famous. Like after 2 weeks, I was like, all right, let me turn this off. Like I'm going to go crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So then, you know, you're self-taught. You are the most followed artist in the world. It's amazing. Yeah. And then you meet this incredible person, Arthur Lewis.
Shout out to Arthur.
Arthur. And Arthur is really part of the art world. He's one of the cognoscenti of the art world. It's this amazing collection. He knows everybody. And he says, hey, you know, you need to join our team and I'm going to promote you. How has that felt like? Because I think, if I'm correct, Arthur has been introducing you to museum directors and to other people. And is that weird? Is it like Cinderella going to the ball?
Yes, for sure.
And do you get to the ball and you go, like, I kind of don't like you people very much anyway? I know, seriously, right? Because, I mean, it can be very snooty and fashionable and, you know, it's all about, you know.
Well, he's listening, so.
But he's not like that. To his credit, he's not like that. But the art world can be pretty vicious and mean and trendy, and you know, it's you know.
Yeah.
And I'm part of it, and I can tell you, yeah.
I can't say anything bad. I'm trying to go.
Oh,
up.
okay. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm putting you in a bad spot. Right.
They're listening.
Yeah. Actually, when I saw you, we were at the Los Angeles County Art Museum Gala, and we took a picture together, and we looked really good, didn't we? We looked really good.
I saw her. She was like over there talking to Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, my friend Jeff. Okay. So you said, here's a quote. I think of myself as a documentarian of contemporary people and culture. And, you know, you do all sorts of people that you meet. I mean, this is fantastic. Just your use of color, you just have this incredible innate sense of the hair.
Thank you.
I mean, do you actually sometimes change how somebody looks and think, I'd really like to have that rainbow on their T-shirt even though it doesn't exist? Or are you pretty purist about it?
I'm pretty purist about it.
You don't mess around and change their hair color or something to make it look better?
Not at all.
Okay. All right.
No, I want to document people how they are,
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's really fantastic. But you've also done some really famous people. You've pictured like President Biden. You actually did one for Robert De Niro, and I saw the clip.
What did you think about that one?
Well, you gave it to him, and he thought you were trying to sell him something, right? And he looked a little bit.
It seemed like that, right?
He looked grumpy and then he saw what you gave him. Was like, oh my gosh, this is me, and he was like appreciative, right? Does that sometimes happen when you
No, yeah.
when you give somebody this drawing of them? Do they go?
They love it. Everyone loves it. Like
Okay.
I was just with Matt Damon like 3 days ago.
Oh, excuse me.
By the way,
Your friend Matt,
my boy.
my boy.
We were just having dinner.
Yeah, right. And you just drew his picture.
I mean, you be with Bezos. That's I'm not there yet. Like, yet.
I don't know. Let's not compare. But okay, so you were with your friend Matt, and you how did that work? How did you meet? I want the details.
So growing up, my favorite movie was Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's fantastic, and actually it speaks to your story too. Right?
Yeah. That's why I was like,
Right.
oh, I love this movie. Like,
yeah. Does everyone know the story Good Will Hunting? About a guy who's basically a janitor. He's cleaning the classrooms at a university, but he's like a polymath and he understands math, and he starts solving all these complicated equations, and no one thinks he can do it. And of course, he turns out to be the most brilliant person. So you've got a similar story.
I love that story. And then like he was like abused, and I was like, wow, this could be me. I love Matt Damon. And then so like 2 weeks ago, I get an email like to have a dinner with Matt Damon and get paid to draw him.
You get an email from Matt Damon?
Or from his peoples or whoever.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
He doesn't do his own email. He probably has someone. No. He's got people.
Yeah.
He's got people to do it. That's great. So you got, what did he serve? What was dinner?
What did he serve?
I mean, isn't this?
I don't remember the names of like, those fancy things like lobsters.
It was lobster?
No, it was something like that.
I mean, I
like,
guess you'd be very disappointed. It was like spaghetti bolognese. You'd be like, really? Could you not come up with something better? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so then I drew him and then gave it to him, and it's been fun. I got to draw so many different.
Who's been your favorite person that you've drawn?
Probably President Biden. Just because like the magnitude of that, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean he's a good guy, so yeah, and he would be really appreciative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever like handed someone their picture and they didn't like it and they complained?
Yeah.
So what?
They're like,
tell me about. I mean, so you're going to understand.
This is why I don't do.
Well, here's how I identify. So I'm at the portrait gallery, right? And I will not give names, but I've had very famous people. I had one situation where the person was standing here and their portrait was there, and they're like, "I hate it, absolutely hate it."
Damn.
And it looks nothing like me. And I'm looking at the picture, and I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at the picture, and I'm thinking, what are you talking about? It's like a spitting. In fact, it makes you look pretty good, actually. I didn't say that, but, people, get very I mean, I've never looked at, I hate my wedding photos. I hate them. Never look at them. I think they're all horrible. Just look like this big white cream puff, So people get really weird about their pictures, and particularly then when it's, it's one thing to be photographed, it's another thing to be painted by someone else. So tell me about like when were people like didn't like it?
Yeah, so like I'm glad I don't have to deal with that anymore, and like people are begging me. But before it was like, oh, why would you even do that? Like what? Like I went in France. This lady I was like, I drew you, and my friend knew French. I didn't know French. She was like, why would you even do that? Why would you even do that? She just kept saying that in French, like, I don't have money for you. I don't like. And I'm the one handing her money with the drawing, like,
yeah,
but she didn't care. And then another time I took a photo, like for these paintings, I take sneaky pictures of people, which is probably creepy too, but so I started doing that, and then this one lady was like, delete that shit right now, and I was like, all right, I was just trying to make you famous, but okay, like,
yeah, I'm not doing you any favors. So now you have your first show. And you didn't know if anyone would turn up. You thought, well, I've got all of these like millions of people following me, but how do I know that they're real friends, right? Like how, I mean, you know, it's been amazing, right? Tell me what that has felt like.
It's been incredible because I went 3 years making this content, and sometimes like you just see like the numbers and I'm just like, this is crazy, I'm going viral. But then I never did an event before. So
Yeah, I mean, they could all be sitting in Germany and they can't.
Yeah,
make
it
the
could be
trip.
bots. I don't know. Like they say, like there's bots on the internet. I'm like, who
Oh,
knows?
it could be a bot, right?
Yeah. So like, I was like, I hope people like show up because my agency called me. Like, shout out to UTA.
No pressure, but
Love you guys.
Yeah.
They called me and they're
Arthur's
like,
you better deliver.
I got you. So they called me. They're like, oh, you know, you have so many followers. So the police are setting up barricades. And I'm like, people better show up or that's going to be embarrassing. They were like, look at this kid with the barricades. Who do you think he is? Nobody even came. So that's why every day I was posting like, come to the art show.
Yeah,
come to the art show.
Please come. Yeah.
And it was packed out. Like the line went down 5.
I saw the pictures. It was like lined around the block.
It was crazy.
It was incredible. That's amazing.
Was anybody online?
Woo! Wow.
Yeah, I came around the block and I tried to say hi to everybody. Just because it
Yeah.
was so hot out. I was like, damn, I'm making people suffer. Like, you know?
Yeah, and somebody was telling me that now when you walk in the gallery, it's like a rock star. They're like, oh, there he is. There he is. There's the artist. There's Devon.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's really
I always
great.
forget. Like today I came in for the interview and then people were like, wait, I was like, oh my God, I forgot about the algorithm and like the followers. Like I just forget.
That's
But
amazing.
it's crazy. It's crazy how people like identify with me and they love the story.
So what's next? You've got this show. You've got 32.6 million, you know.
And growing.
And
No,
growing.
I'm kidding.
No, but it's also what's interesting to me is this idea, and I know Arthur talks about it, is this idea of a crossover artist, right? What does that even mean? Like, what are you crossing over?
No idea. No idea. But it's funny because
so let's just invent it. You and I can define the term. What is you're a painter, you're a kind of a filmmaker,
True.
you're a subway travel. I mean, it's kind of poetic, right? So do you do poetry, by the way? Do you do it? What other art things do you do? Because they often come in multiples, I've found. Are you a good cook?
Not at all. I'm Uber Eats' biggest customer.
Okay. But what about branching out? Have you ever thought of doing sculpture? I mean, you do photographs, right? Because a lot of this starts on photography now and then you go back to the studio.
No, I've only always been interested in like just drawing and painting people. But I guess the TikToks kind of become like really short films.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
But some people just think it's like clownery. But to me, I take it serious. But I don't know. There's still a lot of people out there that's like, oh, that's TikTok. That's like below. And I'm just like, okay, we'll see in a couple of years. I'll be sitting with Kim. You know?
Yeah. You'll have 62 million followers and I will have hit 3,000. You know, I'm on Insta. I'm not allowed to be on TikTok. I mentioned that. Not that I'm bitter. my whole family's on it. I'm not allowed to be on it. Yeah. But now they're on Instagram.
Yeah.
And also when he communicates, it's with Instagram Messenger. And I'm like, well, here's my email. But it's so old school, isn't it? I feel like I'm so old.
The kids
boring.
DM now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, this has been really exciting. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you wish I'd asked you?
No.
No?
Not really. But please forgive me for that mistake about the followers. I'm going to tag you. I'm going to get you like so many followers now to make up for that.
Listen, I'm a Dutch
You're even
Australian.
thinking that
it takes
for 5
a lot
minutes.
to get me upset. I mean, I'm like, doesn't bother me. No, it's great. No, it's true.
Love you.
No, well, congratulations for all your success, and I feel so excited just to be watching you and to sing. But also, let me just say, just to clear up any concerns, that chip on your shoulder, you really need to get rid of it. You're a hell of an artist.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
a
you.
fantastic
Thank you. I need it. So it helps me. It helps me.
Well, you know, sometimes you need people to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you.
Oh, thank you.
No, yeah. This is just amazing. It's extraordinary, and the installation is just amazing too. It's
I know.
Really,
Shout
really
out to
beautiful.
PlayLab. They did all that.
Yeah, it's just great. And what I think you're doing too is you're introducing portraiture to a whole group of people that probably
That's
haven't
what I've
quite
been
thought
saying
about.
to the snobby
know.
people. I'm like, I'm introducing portraiture to people, and they're like, that's not
Portraiture is
elevated.
powerful. It can change the world.
Thank you.
That's true. It's really
Facts.
true because we connect. You know, they say that one of the worst forms of punishment you can give to someone is put them in solitary confinement. You know, we are by our biological hardwiring, we want to be with people, and often the first thing that you experience is the face of someone, a carer or someone that you love, and that just continues. And you're turning that love into something that is really viral, and you're introducing people to other people that they would never normally meet. You know, we start to feel really close to people, even though we'll probably never meet them. I love this picture too of the couple. It's so tender.
Oh, yeah,
Thank
you. Yeah, some of the models showed up to the show, and they were like celebrities there. Everybody was around. Like, I was like, and I didn't expect that because some people just like find it on Instagram and like, oh, I'm gonna come. So they came to the show, and they were like crowded around. And the guy with the face tattoos was like, usually nobody even looks at me or talks to me because they think I'm scary, but everyone was surrounding him, and he's like, I was just sitting there, and yeah. And then I saw a comment on Instagram like, that was so fun. Imagine like you go to Van Gogh's museum and you see the subjects walking around. Like that was like incredible. And I was like, wow, I never thought of that. Like,
yeah. Throw in a couple of sunflowers and you're good, right? But do you actually feel too that this is actually larger than a project of art? I mean, we live in such a fractured society now, and particularly the pandemic. But we have a loneliness problem in this country, in the world, and people are also feeling very divided on all sorts of ways, right? We don't talk to each other, the political environment, we're lonely. In fact, on the happiness index, more people are unhappy than they've ever been before. Wow. So what you're doing is that you're bringing actually people together, and you're breaking down some of those social barriers, right? Because just like you said, the guy who's got the tats, or the woman who's wearing the hijab, or someone, you know, they're different from each other, and you're actually bringing them into people's homes.
That's why I always try to do all walks of life, because, you know, let's say like the guys with the face tattoos, people in the comment section would say like, oh my God, he was actually a nice guy. I would have never spoken to him. And I'm like, you see, this is like other cultures that I'm presenting to you.
And people are judging. And that's, I mean, the truth is, it's not what you look like that matters. It's what you do that counts. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, we know from history, right? You know, racism, gender discrimination, it is a social construct. We do it to ourselves, and the history is very strong in that people judge each other by the surface. Yeah. But the truth is, it's really who you are as a person and what you do that matters, and you're breaking that down, right?
Yeah. That's like one of my messages. Like, just because somebody wasn't born in your echo chamber doesn't mean that they're below you, you know? But people don't get that, so I'm trying to help with that. There's also other layers of like, some of my family members would get mad, like, why do you put out these personal stories about like how you're, and I'm like, there are people out there that they're going through this and they need to see this, and they see like, oh, he made it, I could do it too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Although I got to say, I don't know how many people can do what you do. I mean, that's really kind of extraordinary. Well, thank you for you would actually be great doing some kind of documentary where you're actually come and meet people and you know, break down those barriers and, you know, invite people into it. I mean, this is, you know, e pluribus unum, out of many one.
I want to do that. I want to go like all around the world and sit. I've started this new series where I sit down with somebody and draw them and talk about life.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so I want to do that all over the world. I want to imagine going to like every culture. Like,
that woman in France, like, forget them.
Yeah, no, forget her. Forget her.
Just, you know, yeah.
I know, right? Yeah. Like, why would you do that? What do you mean? Like, like, do you not see what's going on? Like, people love it.
Yeah,
but anyway,
exactly. Well, if it's good enough for President Biden.
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I think we're at time, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Lovely.